B. Lee is saying that, listen to this, and Paul, you kind of mentioned this about the Richardson, the quarterback at Florida. And I love opinions. We all do. No matter, it's your opinion, you feel it. But Hooker may be the next Vince Young. As long as Hooker plays lights out and takes the Vols to a 13-0 SEC championship.
Oh, is that all it takes?
Yeah. There's still like 8 or 9 games left, and then even more than that. Here's the thing. Vince Young is perhaps one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback that's ever played the game. And that's debatable because you have guys who are more drop back, and then you have those who won a lot of championships. I know Tebow didn't put up great stats, but he still was considered. I think it's Tommy Frazier, completely different offense, and he won championships. You were mentioning Richardson from Florida just because of his body style, big, he could throw it.
After the first week.
Vince Young was he's in that conversation, and I don't know if there's a handful of others that would be.
Yeah, Vince Young is for the greatest college quarterback of all time, and certainly one of the most dominant players I've ever seen play college football. And his last 2 years, especially the last year, where Texas just decided, we're going to stop trying to make him into something that he's not, and we're just going to let him be Vince Young. I thought that's what Billy Napier, and it's maybe what he's trying to do with Anthony Richardson right now, but there's just another level to, and no offense to Hendon Hooker, I think he's super fun to watch, but Vince Young just trashed people out of his way. I mean, he destroyed other people. It's such a different thing, physically dominant of what he did. There was, and some of you may remember this, some of you may not, Texas A&M and a quarterback named Reggie McNeil who came out at the same time from Lufkin High School, and both of them were very highly thought of. And Vince Young definitely put his stamp on it. He had more talent around him, but there was no doubt that after the two went on their 4 years in college, Vince Young was the far better player coming out of high school.
Yeah, I was the one that covered Reggie. Craig saw him as well. He was phenomenal, but Vince Young coming out of Houston-Madison was elite, and then they finally just let him be him. They finally let him be him about his sophomore year at Texas, and we saw what he did the rest of the way.
I think Hendon Hooker can, like you saw against Florida, help put a team on his back, so to speak, in some ways. I think Anthony Richardson can do that too, and I think Vince Young certainly did that. I think there's similarities there. I think some of the athleticism, certainly with Richardson, was what got people talking about that in week one, but you saw how quickly that fizzled out. I mean, that fizzled out almost immediately afterwards, but it was fun during week one to talk about him that way. But, yeah, I think Hooker's a really good player. I think Tennessee's a really good team. But, man, with the road ahead of them, to think about getting into the same spot that Vince Young is let's get there first before we start talking about, that kind of thing. There's a long way to go, and Vince had to win that Rose Bowl versus Michigan to set up that run the following year, and Hooker hasn't quite done any of that just yet. But, yeah, definitely a player to keep on talking about and watching and having fun and enjoying watching play, but not quite there yet in my mind.